started. I'm Dr. Jim Jansen. I'm a professor in the College of Information Sciences and Technology, and welcome to the mHealth Challenge Pitch 2013. Some admin things, then I'm going to introduce the judges and explain the rules to the teams, and we'll get started. For the students that are here for a class or something, if you need us to prove that you were here, in the back there is a table with some blue stickers. Make sure you get one. And at sometime during the night, somebody's going to make an announcement with whatever your code is. You got to put on those things to prove you were here. Exactly. A couple of thanks. I want to certainly extend a thanks to Dr. Meg Small and Dr. Lee Erickson, who really put this whole thing together. So let's give them a round of applause. They really did a fantastic job putting it together, and spent a lot of time with the students to make sure they were ready. I want to introduce our distinguished panel of judges. They're all sitting up front here. First, Dr. Patricia Green, who's the Paul D. Babson Chair in Entrepreneurship at Babson College. She's the co-founder of the Deanna Project, which is a project to help raise capital for women who are interested in business or startups. She's also a national academic director of the Goldman Sachs 10,000 Small Businesses, and also an IC2 fellow at the University of Texas. Welcome, Dr. Green. Next, we have Dr. Susan McHale. She's the director of the Social Science Research Institute here at Penn State. She's the director of the Children, Youth, and Families Consortium and a professor of human development in the College of Health and Human Development. Third, we have Brad Mitchell. He's the president of S4 Consulting. I just got a LinkedIn update today. They had a book just released today. The board member of the Service Enterprise Engineering Advisory Board at Penn State University, and a board member emeritus of the College of Information Sciences and Technology. Welcome, Mr. Mitchell. Finally, we have Dr. Dave Hall. He's the Dean of the College of Information Sciences and Technology and a professor of Information Sciences and Technology here at Penn State. Thank you, all the judges. All right, we have 6 teams tonight. Let me just kind of explain the order. Each team will have 5 minutes to pitch their idea. The timekeeper will signal your time when you have 2 minutes remaining, and also when you have 30 seconds remaining. At the end of 5 minutes, your pitch is over. Okay. The judges will have 4 minutes to ask questions. Please keep your questions brief, your answers brief and to the point. Then the teams will have 2 minutes at the conclusion of the prior team's presentation to begin their presentation. The timekeeper, again, will signal when your time has begun. And unfortunately, we don't have time for questions from the audience. All right. Also, for members of the audience, if you turn off your cell phones, it'd be greatly appreciated. And with that, let's get going. The first team is Team Smokebusters, LLC. James, Shanice, Feek, and Nam.
Hello. Hi, everyone. Thanks for coming out tonight.
Hello? Just want to test the mics first.
Hello.
Yep. All right. Are you ready to start? Yes, we are.
Hello, and thank you for coming. We're the Smokebusters, and we've created SigQuit, which is an app designed to help individuals quit smoking. Our specific health issue we identified is cigarette smoking among individuals that are looking to quit. So smoking is the leading cause of preventable death in the United States. Approximately 43.8 million people over the age of 18 smoke cigarettes. It affects both men and women of all races and ethnicities, not equally, but similarly. Cigarette smoking accounts for 443,000 deaths per year. To put this number in perspective, more people die from tobacco use than by HIV, illegal drug use, alcohol use, motor vehicle accidents, suicide, and homicide combined. Cigarette smoking also contributes to other leading causes of death in the United States, such as coronary heart disease, stroke, and cancer. Furthermore, we're well conditioned to associate cigarette smoking with lung cancer. But cigarette smoking is linked to so much more, including bladder, kidney, and pancreatic cancers, as well as cancer of the mouth, vocal box, and throat. The top 5 cigarette manufacturers spend more money on cigarette advertisements in 2 days than the CDC spent in a year on a national media campaign against smoking. This goes to show that individuals are exposed to more subliminal messages from tobacco industries than they are from campaigns that highlight the truth about negative consequences of smoking.
For our app, our target audience consists of individuals aged 20 to 30, since they report trying to quit smoking the most. Some reasons to why this target audience would want to quit smoking include furthering education, starting a career, and building new relationships. A major characteristic of our target audience is that they utilize social media. This allows them to easily connect with family, friends, coworkers, and even BBH and IST students. SigQuit consists of 3 major components. These components are educational, personal, and motivational.
So when we sat down to design our application, we realized that we really needed to make the application extremely personalized. With that being said, as soon as a user wakes up in the morning, they're going to awake to a pop-up notification on their cell phone, reading them by name. Also, they'll be able to see what symptoms they're going to be facing throughout the day. For example, hey Paul, today it's day 4 without smoking a cigarette. You're going to face symptoms X and Y. Also, they'll have a message saying how to cope with the symptoms, and also an inspirational article to help them throughout the way.
On the home page, you will see a video feed similar to that of Instagram, where users would be able to post 15-second video diaries about their journey to becoming smoke-free. They would also be able to see other posts from family, friends, and other members, other people trying to help them with their process, as well as other people that they know that are trying to quit smoking. It also has the ability for users to like posts, so we have a positive rating system there, and we would be very serious about removing any and all negative comments or connotations in this app. There's also an option to explore where you would be able to see posts made by people not immediately in your circle. So you'd be able to see trending and top videos, as well as articles that the staff would post in order to encourage the users to quit smoking. There's also going to be a consistent design throughout the application, because we would be able to link the videos that we have here to Instagram, so users can post to their own personal Instagram as well. We also have our facts and stats page. We would have a fact of the day that we would send out to each user along with the good morning message, as well as different statistics about the tobacco companies that we're trying to, wean them from, as well as quitting statistics, such as nicotine addiction is actually the most common chemical dependency in the United States. Also, we would have a helpline, as well as prevention organizations that the users would be able to reach out to, as well as a little bit of information about us.
So the second main page of the application is called the MyBody Page. Here on this page, users will see a clickable body in which they can click on various organs and parts of the body and see how cigarette smoke can affect each of these organs. Also, they'll again be able to see the symptoms they're going to face today and how to cope with them. And finally, the profile page. On this page, users will be able to see how many days it's been since their last cigarette, and also how much money they've saved through quitting their cigarette process. Finally, they'll have a calendar in which they can see how their journey and to recap their journey. So along with the facts and statistics, SigQuit seeks to bring a social media atmosphere to the process of becoming smoke-free. With that being said, we'd like to now open up the floor to a question and answer session. Thank you.
Well, first of all, thank you very much. I thought it was a very interesting presentation and nicely done. I guess one of my questions would be how long you think somebody might use this? I mean, do they get to a certain point and it's done? Or is it ad infinitum because they're always going to be fighting it? Just curious about how long you think they would use your app.
Yeah, I can answer that. Well, this app is designed to be like a social media app that we all use. So we compared it to Instagram and Twitter, something that we used for forever until that app goes out of style. So so we want this app to be something that people use even after they quit smoking. So it's a motivational aspect, and it's something social also. So after they quit smoking, they can motivate others through this app to also quit smoking. So they can use it for as long as they like.
Thank you.
I wondered about the symptoms and the coping strategies. Where did you get information about that, and what kinds of coping strategies are you endorsing?
Well, the information we got in regards to the symptoms we got from the Center of Disease Control, and they have literally a list of different facts and stats that we would be able to incorporate into our application. In regards to the coping symptoms or coping mechanisms, I think our BBH students would be able to answer that better.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Actually, with the coping, so Feek was actually talking whenever we sat down and we were discussing like possible strategies. He was actually a former smoker, and he was just telling us about how he was like, with his brother or friend, they sat down and they like looked at each symptoms online. They were looking, say, like, what am I going to experience today? So then we really incorporated that into the app with the social media, and then also the facts of like what you might experience for that day and how you're going to cope with that.
That was a great presentation. Do you have any indicators or other examples that this type of approach might work, or any way or your thoughts in terms of how you're going to measure success that this would work?
Okay, so I can answer that question. So as a BBH student, we study many theories, and one of our theories that we thought would work best for this app is the social networking theory, and that just says that the people around you in your networks help you to do a certain behavior. So for our app, being around people who motivate you not to smoke, and if they don't smoke, it would motivate you not to smoke. A way to measure this can be sending out surveys through the app, so they can answer a questionnaire. It will come back to our IST guys, and they can put that into a database so we can measure the success of this app.
Very nice presentation, thank you. One last question. Is there any sensor you think could be incorporated on a smartphone that would detect whether or not you'd smoked or not?
With today's technology, you just might be able to. However, that's not something that we would that we necessarily detected when we created our app. We were kind of operating on an honor system, so the group that we're targeting are actually the group that is trying hardest to quit, right? Mm-hmm. So we were essentially operating off of that honor system.
All right, let's give Team Smoke Busters LLC. All right, our next team is Team H2Go. Team H2Go. Team H2Go. Oh, yeah, yes, we need you down here. You're 2 minutes to start it. And for all the teams, make sure you hold the mic just a little bit closer to your mouth, and so that everyone can hear. So.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to Global Entrepreneurship Week. We're really happy everyone came out tonight to watch us. I'm Nick.
I'm Cassie.
I'm Brad.
And this is our smartphone app, H2Go, for the athlete on the go who wants to maintain their hydration levels and maintain electrolyte levels. So our target user is going to be the serious athlete, either at the high school, collegiate, or professional level, who wants to increase their performance and become the best athlete they can be. Many athletes, like Cassie, she's 5.5 feet tall, 120 pounds, and a Penn State rugby player. So she is actually a great target user that she may utilize. However, many athletes like her fail to address proper hydration. They maintain focusing on diet and their workout schedules, keeping in contact with their coach. But water and hydration is just overlooked, especially electrolyte levels.
Overlooking hydration leads to a variety of health issues, such as overhydration or hyponatremia, dehydration, which we're focusing on, heat exhaustion, and heat stroke, which can ultimately lead to death. So you can see how this is a big issue for athletes. Simply put, many body systems have to overcompensate when dehydration happens in the body. Specifically, what we're focusing on was reduced cardiac output and increased use of muscle glycogen stores in the body, which easily leads to fatigue. Optimum performance decreases by an overwhelming 30% when just 5% of one's body weight is lost due to sweat. So these recommendations here, we have incorporated into the app to maximize performance with fluid intake. These fluids you see here are personalized to individual profiles, which you'll see later. Brad will talk about that, and are based on activity log and fluid intake logs, which are both features of our application. Based on your sport, the rigor of the sport, your personal attributes, as we described myself earlier, weather conditions, and fluid intake, these fluids will be recommended.
So when designing the app, we wanted to focus on simplicity and the easy access of information to our athletes. So first off, on the homepage, athletes can go and create a profile. Here, the profile is personalized to each athlete, where they enter basic information about themselves, such as age, height, weight. And here, the app creates a personalized profile. They can add a picture, and it includes a graph of their current hydration levels. So once that's complete, athletes can add activities to where it will show up in their activity log listed, and they can also create new activities, and all they have to do is just choose an activity from many of the popular ones, enter some basic information once again about the activity. And so the app, what's remarkable is it'll take into account their personal data along with the weather data, and it'll create simple and easy to read graphs and charts that will tell them how much they should consume before, during, and after their activity. So hydration is the main focus of this app, and so we wanted to make sure that the athlete was constantly reminded and knew how much they should drink at every point in the day. So we incorporated a reminder system that pushes notifications to the athlete's phone. And so here they can go directly to a fluid log page where they can choose what drink they'll be having and then physically fill up the cup by just holding their thumb down. And so I think this is much more accurate than just recording a number, because they can physically see how much they're taking in. So for athletes that aren't meeting the standards or are achieving standards, we incorporated a feedback system which, if they're not up to standards, like I said, it will tell them how their performance will be affected. And similarly, if they're reaching the hydration standards, then it will say how their optimal performance levels are being maintained. Lastly, there are outside factors that are outside of hydration, so we wanted to make sure we took that into account. So we create a reminder system for the weather, and so anytime there's a heat advisory, they can be taken directly to a map page where it'll show the nearest indoor location for their safety.
So before I mentioned the lack of motivation by some athletes to address proper hydration. So with that problem, we addressed a trainer interface, which allows the trainer to track the team through maintaining profiles. So here we have Cassie's profile. We can see her H2O, potassium, and sodium levels, as well as her kinesthetic movement, and this is recorded through her activity log. So this way, athletes are more apt to enter data in this water log and continue using the app for an extended period of time. Thank you.
Thank you for listening.
I can address that. Well, yeah, we definitely thought about incorporating the kinesthetic receptors in the phone. However, most athletes don't have their phone on them while, engaging in the activity. And with those clothes becoming increasingly expensive, some athletes might not be able to afford that. So what we created was our activity log, in which if the phone was not on you, you'd be able to enter your activity, your practice or your game or your match.
At the collegiate level, with like increasing, or what was it, the 62% of people have experienced
General dehydration, just
dehydration.
Experiencing fatigue on a regular basis.
Athletes. And 10,000 in the past 10,000 collegiate and high school athletes in the past year were hospitalized due to heat stroke. So we saw this as a reoccurring problem that could be easily prevented.
Well, I think like later on, high school athletes who are considered about getting picked up by certain college recruiters, I mean, those are people who are going to want to work at peak performance. But our main target athlete is going to be the person who wants to achieve that perfect peak level of performance. Getting that like 1/10 of a second in a sprint really matters in a meet or something. So this app is just for people who want to keep getting better, either at the collegiate level or the high school level, but only people who are extremely serious about furthering their sports.
Did you consider other nutrients or other aspects of hydration that, and I don't know if that was in the profile, but depending on what the nutrients are and those kinds of things, driving the hydration level that you need and so forth for this peak performance. Does this fit into a larger kind of mosaic of information?
We did consider the electrolytes, like as you see the sodium and potassium levels, and when we considered the example drinks, which would be geared towards your activity level and how intense your sport is, whether it's like cross-country skiing, which is for a long time, or simply just a sprint. We'll say the Gatorade would be geared towards endurance, but a sprint, you would be more like a protein shake for something short bursts, or just water, which will keep your muscles activated.
Just to touch back on that question, we did consider incorporating food into this application, but due to self-report, a lot of people become unengaged in those types of apps. So we wanted to stick it strictly to drinks. But I mean, so there could be some errors in reporting electrolytes if people are eating fruit. But we want to include things like if you ever heard of naked juice, so you can report that, and protein shakes and stuff like that. Thank you.
All right, our next team is Team Chemo composed of Lauren, Andy, James, and Nicholas.
All right. Well, on behalf of my group, ChemoCope, I want to personally thank Dr. Jansen, Dr. Erickson, and Dr. Smalls. You guys are awesome. I also want to thank all the fine young scholars in the audience for coming out tonight. We hope you enjoy it, and God bless the United States of America.
Thank you, James. What if I told you that over 13,000 children are diagnosed with cancer every year? What if I also told you that after receiving this diagnosis, many of them are no longer able to enjoy a traditional childhood? They miss out on things like sports because their bodies are too weakened and tired to compete. They miss out on sleepovers because they have to wake up early in the morning to go to a doctor's appointment. They struggle to communicate with their friends because their friends don't understand what they're going through. So let me ask you, how are they supposed to cope with this new major life change? And that's exactly the problem. Many of them are not.
Now we're going to introduce how all of this is going to change. Ladies, gentlemen, and judges, ChemoCope. ChemoCope. ChemoCope is an interactive gameplay application that allows pediatric cancer patients to easily communicate with others, doing what most of them love most: playing games and making friends. For many children undergoing chemotherapy treatment, ChemoCope will serve as an emotional and social outlet as they deal with their changing bodies and changing lives. Chemotherapy regimens are specific to the type of cancer that children are diagnosed with, but there are some common side effects, such as hair loss, vomiting, pain, and delayed puberty. Overall, though, children are affected most by their developing bodies and the uncertainty that cancer brings. Receiving chemotherapy treatment has children missing out on activities and the traditional lives that their classmates and friends are still living. Spending more time in appointments leads to depression and anxiety in terms of their emotional state. We are introducing a solution to this global health issue as more children are affected each year. This new mobile health application will not just affect one person, it'll impact millions.
So, since cancer targets all races and levels of socioeconomic status, as well as both genders, ChemoCope is designed to be gender neutral and will not be affiliated with any particular specific race or level of socioeconomic status. Pediatric outpatients going through puberty between the ages of 10 and 14 will be specifically targeted. We had the opportunity to speak with a pediatric oncologist, Dr. James Powell, and his nurse, Kayla Neff, who are employed at at the Cancer Pavilion. Through conversation, we were able to gain guidance and support for this application. As previously said, the biggest impact that it has on children is missing out on social interactions, which has been confirmed with our conversation with Dr. Powell and his nurse, Kayla Neff. For this reason, we have created a messaging platform within ChemoCope for our pediatric users. ChemoCope will allow our users to create a new social network and communicate with children going through similar experiences. Greater social support can positively impact coping mechanisms, which in turn can positively impact treatment
By creating an actual game for users, we're not offering just another messaging platform. Through gamification, we're enabling users to talk about what level they're on, help each other progress through their treatments, and make new friends who truly understand what they're going through. Users are controlling a character that destroys cancerous cells, and after 10 cancerous cells are destroyed, the user is rewarded with a helmet and increased speed. This aspect represents users being put back into control of their diagnosis and building a sense of self-efficacy. By defeating levels, the user builds their belief in their ability to succeed and overcome challenges associated with chemotherapy. Thank you.
This is working.
Yeah, this one's working.
I don't think my mic was working, but we have plans to incorporate an educational level, like incorporating facts and maybe teaching them a little bit more about their chemotherapy treatments, because it's very specific to each type of cancer. So it would really be in the works that we could target the specific user in the future. This is more as a general level, just because there's so many different types of chemotherapy. So we're still working on that. Yeah. We did not have. Okay. Well, I'm sorry. What? That was an excellent question. And I spoke a lot with Dr. Powell and his nurse, and they were really all for this application because they have like that hands-on experience with the kids most of the time. And we really didn't have a chance to talk to a child that would be in this age range yet, but that would be our next step.
The ultimate goal is to work with the child life specialist, because right now they use dolls and different tools such as that to work with children and help them cope. And so we just want to meet with them and take what they do and gamify it to help, because that's what kids like to do. They like to play video games, and they could do it from home. They wouldn't have to be impatient meeting with somebody. So.
What's the connection between the game and the sort of other the social interaction part of the app? And I also thought your presentation was great, by the way.
Yeah.
We could make, anybody could make just a messaging platform and say, here are some other kids that are going through what you're going through. You can get online and talk to them. But by creating a game, the kids can go on there and play. They have a messaging platform that's right there. So it's very similar to online gaming right now, except it would only be other kids that have cancer. And then they would be able to talk to each other about the game and maybe help each other beat different levels. It's just sort of like a common thing that they would have to talk about. And
so
then they would
they're
take
playing
the
separately, but they can talk about the same thing in addition to their
It would bring them
medical
together.
experiences.
Yes.
Just like to further answer your question. We did think about this, and our goal through the messaging platform and the game aspect was that we would be helping these patients create a social network of other children that understand what they're going through. Because like we said previously, they had classmates and friends that just maybe weeks or months ago, they were close friends and now don't know how to talk to them.
I have two more quick questions. One is there any need for protection of children from people who might get on the game without having a good reason to?
Another excellent question. We were hoping to, we actually did mention this again, but we were going to create a closed network through the game so that parents can, that would only be using participating hospitals, so that parents can rest assured that they know who their children are talking to throughout the app.
Great. And why 10 to 14-year-olds?
Well, I spoke with a lot of medical experts, and I was kind of trying to hone in on like a specific age because pediatric cancer is just, there's a huge age range. So one of the medical experts suggested that we target children that are going to start to go through puberty. And that's like their biggest concern is like the social interaction and the uncertainty of what's going to happen to them. So, I mean, they know what's going on too. So basically by giving them this social network and this game aspect, they would be able to come together and deal with it together.
A very nice presentation, thank you. Just one last question. Do you have any particular reason you selected this application?
Yes. It was a project of mine for a class, and I actually volunteered at Children's Hospital of Philadelphia, where I had the opportunity to work with the child life specialist on an outpatient oncology floor. So I had that direct patient care with the kids, and I knew exactly it. Although they were very little, it kind of sparked where I want to go with my future. So that's where I got the idea for it.
All right, thank you very much. Hey, we're actually running ahead of schedule. This is fantastic. Our next team is Team Conversity of Rita, Blake, and Chimango.
Hello, hello.
Hello?
Yeah, we're good. Can we get them? Can we get theirs?
Hello. So a couple weeks ago, we were asked to design a health promotion app that would be used to address a specific population and their needs. We decided that we wanted to address a group that was being neglected. So we decided to focus on college students who identify as gender, sexuality, and romantic minorities. This includes those whose romantic preferences and sexual identities don't align with the majority of the population. I know that, at least for me, this is more of a personal topic because several of my best friends fit into this category. And I watched all of them struggle to fit back into their old social groups. They noticed that very few of their friends they were able to trust. A lot of them dropped out on the friendship or ignored them, and none of them had support from any of their family members. What we noticed was that even though they all had drastically different lives and personalities, they all had the same lack of social support. We think that a lot of this is due to the social environment. A national survey we found noted that students who describe themselves as being gay, bisexual, or transgender were 5 times more likely to miss out on school because of feeling unsafe, and 28% were forced to drop out entirely. It was statistics like this that made us really realize what an impact this is having on the nation and that something needs to be done. Our solution is Conversity, an all-in-one counseling app.
Okay, so this is how Conversity works. We aim to try and fix this problem by taking a kind of unique perspective on it. As you know, one of the problems with therapy is the stigma attached to confronting a stranger. As anyone knows, facing someone, especially someone we don't know, it can be really daunting face to face and like telling them your problems. We've also noticed that if you were to look like online, where people have like usernames, I'm sure you've seen like CNN comments and YouTubes, people are a lot braver when that really with who they're talking to. So we thought if we gave this approach to a therapy session, they'd be more open, more honest, more candid. Also, another reason why it's going to work is because our audience is university students, which, as you know, their environment's very dynamic, it's very changing. A lot of times, if they face an issue or in a moment of distress, they're not always where they could get help right away. They could be off campus, they could be in the middle of a class when something really startles them, disturbs them, and they really want the help they need when they can get it. And this app, being a mobile app, can really give them a greater ease of access into that. So this is the first screen of Chemotherapy. Upon opening the app the first time, this is what you would see. Because this is a university kind of app, we'd use university resources. So we would use the university email to verify you're a student. And then from there, they get a randomly generated ID. So they get like kind of an air of confidentiality to other users. Also, if they're in a moment of stress, and like, as you know, if they're in a panic, they might not have time to kind of go through like a sign-in process. So they can actually choose to skip, and if they were to choose to skip, they would still have access to forums where they can read other comments, comforting messages, and also general information and resources.
All right, now let's take a look at how the app actually works. All right, so as you can see on the home screen, there's a chat, information, and forum option. Now, let's focus on the forum option. Now, a user would go and make a post on the forum. They would then tag that post, and then it's put under a certain category. And then other users will go and comment on the post, and then the comments are categorized by popularity, which is determined by an upvote system, as you can see on the right. The more popular comments go on the top, and then the unhelpful comments, like the one you see at the bottom, go at the bottom. Now, now let's look at the chat feature. Now, we really wanted to focus on simplicity, so it's just as easy as clicking on chat, and then you are immediately brought to a conversation with a counselor. And then the last feature is the information resources, and users would go here if they need an answer to any simple question, as well as general information on stuff like health, stress management, or, as you see here, bisexuality. So, yeah.
So life is unexpected, and so are times of stress. We don't always have the time to wait for our appointment to talk about what's been going on, which is where Conversity comes in, because we're providing relief on the go. In the future, we would like to expand our population to include all college students because of the impact we think that Conversity could have. Thank you for taking time today to listen to our vision.
Thank you. There's an emerging type of sort of text analysis called sentiment analysis. I don't know if you're familiar with that, where you use a tool to automatically sort of judge the tone or sentiment of text, whether it be tweets or anything else. Have you thought about the possibility of using a tool such as that somehow to incorporate in this solution?
No, we have not actually thought about that, but now that you mention it, we could actually implement that, and then the counselor could go back and look at what the person's saying. So no, we haven't thought about it, but yeah, that is actually that could be a great tool.
I have two questions. Good job. One is about, similar to the last one I asked, the protection from stalkers on this media. I mean, you have to have a Penn State ID, but how can you be sure that the people who are you're meeting are legit, on your side and not trying to do something mean?
Do you mean the counselors?
No, I
Or
mean
the
fellow
people on forums?
students.
Right. So, I mean, as with any forum, you do have to regulate things like that. So, you would have someone kind of running the app a little bit, but to make our jobs easier, or whoever's running the app easier, we did have that upvote, downvote system, which would automatically push spam to the bottom because it's being downvoted. So not only would we be regulating the app on our side to protect people, but we also have the upvote system.
I'm more thinking about somebody who gets on who's trying to persecute a student this
Each
group. Yeah.
person would get a randomly generated ID number,
Uh-huh.
so everything is confidential.
But you could decide to meet somebody who you've met,
Right.
who seems particularly sensitive and kind, and then that person turns out not to be.
Yes, I mean, you could choose to meet the person, but you'd have to keep in contact with them, so there'd be a messaging feature, and we don't want anyone to have an inbox or anything like that. The only contact that they will have is with the counselor.
Oh,
So,
okay.
yeah.
So you don't have a chance to go back and forth between people.
Right,
No. That's you have a chance, but that's in the forum. But you can't personally
It's
inbox
all
these
public,
people.
so it's,
Okay.
yeah.
And that's good. And second question I had is, what about the counselor's role? Have you talked to counselors about how this could work for them?
Right, so, I mean, there's a long answer and a short answer to that. You know, we haven't spoken to university health service representatives, but I know just from a personal level, I'm a crisis counselor downtown at the Women's Resource Center. And I know how easy it is to put people through training and get them on a crisis counselor hotline. So the long answer is that we haven't confirmed like all of the business aspects of it, but I know from personal experience that, you know, downtown at local centers, after 80 hours of training, then anyone who's gone through that can be a counselor, if that answers anything.
Could you go back to the first slide, please?
Yeah, sure. This one?
Yeah, thank you.
Okay.
The pink and the blue, I know. But I did have a question about how this informed what you were thinking about, well, anything really about the creation of the app, and actually the source of this. If this is the research you're basing this on, where does it come from, and what do you do differently because of it?
Yeah.
So you're talking about this picture in general?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so this picture in general really shows that it's not all black and white, essentially.
It's pink and blue.
Yeah, it's blue and pink and gradients. So everyone has like a unique experience, and a lot of times they can't really, they find comfort in kind of talking to other people that have similar experiences but not always the same. So we try to keep everything as open. If you saw briefly on our like information page, we had like many different types, like different types of sexualities. Everything's pretty subjective, but it's just because there's no number one resource, we try to give a very kind of general, broad communication field for people that had like issues with their identity.
So is there a source for this, or you put this together from multiple sources?
Google Images. I mean, it's from Google Images. I just thought that it represented the idea that sexuality isn't something that's like black and white.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of people who identify as gender, sexuality, or romantic minorities see it as more of a gradient. And so I thought that since this represented that gradient idea, that it would be something good to incorporate.
Thank you.
And our next team is Team Smart Drinker. Maritza, Natalie, Sean, and Cameron.
Check. Nowadays, we use our phones for everything, from finding directions when we're lost to even turn off the lights in our home when we're not even home. Well, why don't we have an app to help us regulate our drinking? Well, now there's an app for that. I'm proud to introduce the Smart Drinker app, where you could drink smart when the app starts. We created an app to combat binge drinking at Penn State.
Binge drinking occurs when women consume 4 or more drinks, or men consume 5 or more drinks, all within a 2-hour period. This amount of alcohol in blood leads to impaired judgment that can lead to detrimental consequences, such as injuries or death related to car crashes or alcohol poisoning. Binge drinking rates, although decreasing, have remained prevalent among Penn State undergraduate students. As you can observe from the student drinking report, which shows that the rates of students who have engaged in high-risk drinking, also known as binge drinking, in 2008, 2011, and 2013. Another graph from the report shows that binge drinking occurs among all subgroups at Penn State, which suggests that all students who drink can benefit from this app, especially those who are looking for a method that doesn't involve talking to someone face-to-face, and students might feel ashamed or embarrassed about talking to someone about their binge drinking behaviors. We have surveyed 30 undergraduate students to find out if they would use an app that would promote safe drinking, and 88% said yes. Students who responded yes also showed an interest in features like a drink tracker with a timer, a GPS locator, and helpful resources in case of emergencies. Based on this, we created our app features: a drink tracker and timer to raise awareness about binge drinking, a map and GPS locator emergency resources to reduce the likelihood of consequences related to car crashes and alcohol poisoning, and notification reminders to promote protective behaviors.
All right, so now you're going to be able to see our drink menu. It's probably one of the most important screens we have in this app. On this menu, you're going to have the ability to input the drinks you drink, which will give you your BAC, which is blood alcohol content. You're also going to have a timer, so you can see how long you've been drinking. You will have access to profile and history screens, which will let you input your personal information such as like height and weight, and your drink history, which you can go back and look at the history since you've been using the app. One of the really cool features that we put on this screen is the status bar. The status bar will increase as your BAC increases, and it will also have the ability to notify you when you pass the legal limit for driving, pass any personal limits that you've set for yourself, pass any limits that may be dangerous for your health, and will also show your drinking compared to other students as found in the student drinking report.
Our next screen is this map screen. What we hope to do with the map screen is give the user an easier way to get home after a night of drinking. We're going to do that by allowing them to set some safe locations, which are represented by greenhouses on the map. These greenhouses will be set in the settings menu and can be rotated between using the route menu. And the route menu will essentially draw a line on the map so that the user may easily reach the location. We also hope to partner with the CATA bus services locally in State College to provide a map of their buses, which they track using a digital system. There are also emergency icons on the map, and by tapping the emergency icons, such as a hospital or police station, the user can be brought to the emergency screen, which is our next screen. This screen provides the user with some different contacts that they can go to for help if they're in an emergency. At the top of the screen, we have two sections that are primarily derived from the user's contacts on their phone already. Most phones have an emergency contacts feature, and the designated drivers feature would be specified specifically by the user. The bottom two are local services that we hope to localize to different versions of the application for different places, the first one obviously being for Penn State. Now, we hope that the user never really has to use the emergency screen because we'll be providing them tips through this next feature to avoid emergencies.
Here we have a previous study done by the PSU Student Drinking Report. We asked students if they keep track of how many drinks they consume during an hour, set a limit, a personal limit of how many drinks they consume in an hour, and alternate between water and drinks. A lot of the students said that they rarely do this or usually do this, so we see that there's room for improvement. Here we have an alert system that would remind you to drink water in between each drink, or even eat food if you like. Remember, this is only a prototype, so with more support, we can possibly make this successful.
Binge drinking rates can continue to decrease at Penn State with the help of this app. And remember, drinking smart begins when the app starts.
Really great presentation. And with the BAC, again, did you consider a sensor built into the smartphone as well, a breathalyzer type situation? I don't know what the economics of that are, but.
I mean, I don't think technology is there just yet to where you could just like breathe in your smartphone, but it's definitely something where if it got there, that would really be great. We could implement it in the app really easily.
In addition to that, we can also have the phone vibrate after you've passed a certain limit. Besides the bar, it would also vibrate, reminding you that you've passed your limit.
For the past couple months, we've been working with consultants in the University Health Services, and there's already programs set up, such as the Basics program. I'm not sure if you're familiar with that, but if students... Question?
No, go ahead.
So if students are get caught like drinking or get submitted to the hospital, they have to enter into the Basics program. What the Basics program has is a set of BAC levels that is tailored to your sex, your height, and your usual drinking patterns. So we're going to work with the Basics program to use that chart and implement it into the app.
And are there any sort of cognitive tests or quizzes or something that you could interact and say, if you can't see this, or you see two of those, or, is there any of that dimension of this?
As you can see, we tried to make the font and all the buttons fairly big, but there's also another feature where your friends can actually input, your drinks too. So if he's too inebriated, then I'll be like, all right, Joey, I'll put your drinks in because obviously you're too. But also we wanted to have the bartenders be able to, like when you walk into a bar, be able to scan a barcode and the bartenders input the drinks for you as well.
That's interesting. Yeah. Very nice presentation. Congratulations, too, on doing a survey. And I know, especially since you only had a week, so going out and getting actual potential user data is really intriguing. And I'm going to ask a question that the sample's too small, but I was just curious if you saw any gender differences in students who said they were likely to use this kind of app.
If we can go back to the survey. Bring that up.
That's a good question. And we did see that women would use it the most, but equally men and women were both really interested in the app from our sample. And if we were to implement this, we would try to get a bigger sample.
Thank you. A nice presentation. Did you have any concern about privacy from the standpoint that if a student was using this and then the campus police or whatever might try to use the information in that against the student?
I don't think the police would be able to access that, because the point is if your friends are going to be accessing it, you have to give them permission first, and no one else will be able to see it except for you in your history. So unless somehow they got in and where they could see what we could see kind of is making the app, they won't be able to do it.
Kind of to elaborate, you're not going to put your name in the app, you're not going to put your email, your social security, so it'll be pretty hard to track down.
Do you have any sense or evidence that an inebriated person would use rational information, data, to make a decision?
Once again, it'll be a teamwork process. If you don't trust yourself enough to input the data, then your smarter friends will input the data.
But I mean, you've got the data, you're told that you're over the limit. Is there any evidence that shows that people who know they're over the limit would stop drinking? That's a good strategy for getting people to stop drinking?
Okay.
Information changes behavior?
There's something called the social norms theory, which states that you want to act within the society's norms. So like we said, we were going to put something on the status bar that shows you how you're compared to other Penn State students. So if you were drinking 8 drinks per night and other Penn State students are drinking 5, you would want to bring it down. So according to the social norm theory.
All right, our last team number 6, team patient stat.
Okay, so before I dive in, I would like to share with you a personal experience that I had in a hospital recently. It was 5:30 a.m. on a Monday when I received a text from my roommate Ashley that she was going into emergency surgery to have her appendix removed. My roommates and I rushed to the hospital, arriving in panic, asking nurses and staff where she was, but we got incorrect information and were led on a frantic chase in a seemingly endless maze. Finally, after talking with 5 staff members, we were able to locate Ashley and see her just before she went into surgery. As it turned out, our quest for information didn't end there. We all had classes and wanted to know when she was out of surgery and where she would be. No one had answers. In fact, nurses and hospital personnel were busy and were getting annoyed with our questions. What if there was a way to know exactly where Ashley was in the hospital, when she was in recovery, and if and when we were allowed to see her without interrupting any hospital staff? Even from outside of the hospital? If only there was a better way to communicate. What if there was an app? This is how the idea for PatientStat was born.
So just how does PatientStat work? Any hospital visitor with a smartphone can download PatientStat directly from the App Store. All they need to enter is the patient's unique identifier, and then they'll obtain that directly from the hospital's front desk. The patient's unique identifier is not connected to the hospital's medical record system to be HIPAA compliant. It's as simple as that. After entering the patient's unique identifier, you can see status updates, including date and time, as well as a timeline of events. Simply click on any one of those status updates, and you can see the exact location of your loved one, right in our map section of PatientStat. What if finding your loved one was as simple as using Google Maps? With PatientStat, you can see the exact location of your loved one right on your smartphone, anytime. You'll even know when they're assigned to a new room before you get to the hospital. As added value, PatientStat also includes the visiting hours of the hospital. I'd like to turn it back over to Bree to talk about the core benefits of PatientStat.
PatientStat is going to create a better social support system for patients because the patients will know that their loved ones will be able to easily find them in the hospital. Patients will be able to remain at ease and relaxed when going through their experience in the hospital. A recent study conducted at Ohio State University by neuroscientists claims that having visitors in the hospital can speed up patients' recovery time after surgery and have less nerve-related pain while inflammation levels lower faster. Companionship is key in recovering from pain in numerous experiments by the experts from the Society of Neuroscience. Simply having a friend or a loved one nearby reduces stress and increases the healing process of the body. Researchers also claimed that physical social contact has both behavioral and psychological influences. One of the tests involved in proving these claims was with mice. Mice with cage mates showed lower stress levels than isolated mice did, which increased the recovery time of nerve-related pain. This study gives us a good idea that companionship and a supportive social environment are crucial in recovering from pain. Not only will the patient benefit, but the visitors will have a better hospital experience overall as well. Sitting in a waiting room for hours, not knowing what's really going on, can be taxing. Once you physically go to the hospital and get the password for the patient, you're able to leave. Because let's be honest, no one likes going to hospitals, so you can run errands and complete your daily activities, grab something to eat. Once the patient is allowed to be seen for visitation, the loved one will get a notification on their phone so they know when to come back. Hospitals can be confusing, kind of like a maze, so PatientStat will recognize the hospital's layout by giving you directions on which ways to go through the hospital, which ways to turn, left or right. PatientStat will reduce the burden on staff because visitors will not be constantly asking where their loved ones are or how to get there, since the app will give you clear directions of the hospital. We've talked to professionals, and they've agreed that PatientStat would make their lives easier. With a healthy social support system comes a speedy recovery, resulting in less hospitalization time and lower overnight stays. This can create more room in the hospital, which will also lower costs for the patients. With PatientStat, there will be a solidified way in communication in hospitals. Unnecessary verbal communication will be no longer. There will be fewer steps along the process. PatientStat will allow a quicker and easier ways of communication rather than having conversations with the staff. This would save a substantial amount of time. Unnecessary conversations can lead to time taken away from, for instance, nurses, which can take crucial time away from a patient that they may already be working with. This concludes our presentation. Thank you for your time and attention. We are open to address any questions.
hold it the whole time. Take it away.
Thank you. Nice presentation. One question just involves the idea of suppose a patient, for whatever reason, doesn't want that information known. What is sort of the privacy issues? And then a sort of follow-up on that, what if they want the information known, but for some people, but not others?
Actually, in one of the discussions we had with my mother-in-law, who's a registered nurse of 25 plus years of experience, she broke down to me the process of checking in a patient, and the patient has the right to not have any of their information disclosed at all. So if they so wish, no one can know that they are even in the hospital. This app will be built with that in mind, so that the patient makes that choice first whether or not they want their information shared. Therefore, we are perfectly compliant with HIPAA, and we will not encroach on any patient's privacy.
I may have missed this, but who's going to enter all the data about the patient's status, where they are, what's going to happen next, and so forth?
That should be an automated system. We are able to use existing technologies that do not access the electronic medical records to have that information pushed out to the app without creating any new work or requirements on the hospital resources.
Can you help me understand that a little bit? I'm still having trouble figuring where it comes from and how it gets into the app.
Yeah, so IBM actually has a technology called Smart Room and Smart Board. These actually exist already, and they actually do interface with electronic medical records, but they only pull the information that they need to present this. And these smart boards are at basically the entrance to any nurse's station, any hallway. So this information is already readily available, and it's just making it more secure and putting it in an app would make it a lot easier for people that visit.
Okay, so it would be an investment by the facility. They'd have to do that in order to support the app.
Correct.
Okay, that helps. Thank you. And I love the picture of the grandpa with the baby. That was really cute.
Well, that was really, really cool, having been in similar situations and looking for information, trying to find information about a patient, loved one, family member. Extraordinarily frustrating. So I think you really kind of hit on something here. And it's interesting too, because your app is going to sort of modify behavior of the family, but as a consequence of that, we'll have a more positive, according to the studies that you cited, a more positive health outcome for the patient, which is interesting. And I just think it's a you remember the old phone trees when, the son of the patient or whatever would call their family member, and then it would sort of spread out in the phone calls, get this sort of garbled information, well, not in critical condition, in satisfactory condition, whatever. To have this phone tree on an app, I think would be just terrific. So, nice job.
So you can find out on your phone what your loved one's up to. Are you sure that you'll increase social contact if all you have to do is get on your phone and know what's going on?
The thought behind the app was to make it less daunting for visitors to come to the hospital and find their way around, and much easier to find their patient in the first place. So based on that, we expect more people to come and visit, and this isn't meant to be a replacement for that contact because it's the physical presence that is improving the recovery rates.
All right, now the judges have a task. We're going to time them. They only get 10 minutes to pick our three winners. So we're going to have a short intermission. And so Brandon, maybe you can come and turn on some music for us.